April 22nd, 1944. A French beach before dawn. The sky is overcast, the sand still dark, the channel a grey line beyond the surf. A single figure paces the waterline. Compact, weathered, moving with the kind of deliberate energy that belongs to a man who cannot stop thinking. His adjutant, Captain Helmuth Lang, struggles to keep pace. The figure stops, points at the ground with a short black baton, silver-tipped, tasseled in red, black and white. Not the formal marshal's baton. The other one, the one he carries everywhere. He has been saying the same thing for months. He says it again now. The war will be won or lost on the beaches. We'll have only one chance to stop the enemy. And that's while he's in the water. Reserves will never get up to the point of attack. The first 24 hours of the invasion will be decisive. 6 weeks later, on the morning of June 6, 1944, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel was not on the beaches. He was in Germany. What happened on those beaches while he was gone took 6 hours to accomplish what 2 years and 1.4 million laborers had been assembled to prevent. At one sector of one beach, 90% of the first assault wave would be dead or wounded inside the opening minutes. The exact toll is still disputed. On March 23, 1942, Adolf Hitler signs Führer Directive No. 40. The order is simple in its ambition. Fortify every meter of Atlantic coastline from the Spanish border to the northernmost tip of Norway. 2,400 miles, 15,000 emplacements, 300,000 troops. A wall so formidable that the Allies would break against it before a single man could set foot on European soil. The name the Reich gives it says everything about its intended function. The Atlantic Wall, the Atlantic Wall. Within months, the newsreels are running, thundering gun batteries, poured concrete, soldiers scanning the channel through embrasures in reinforced stone. The footage goes out to neutral nations, to occupied Europe, to anyone who might carry word back to London or Washington. The message is consistent and deliberate. The western coast of Europe is sealed. German soldiers manning the wall are told the same thing. Behind this concrete, they are untouchable. Allied planners receive the message and plan accordingly. D-Day preparation consumes hundreds of thousands of man-hours precisely because the men running it believe in some substantial measure that the wall is real. When they run casualty estimates for a Normandy assault, those projections are built on the assumption that the wall will function as advertised. It is propaganda aimed outward at the enemy. But it is also propaganda aimed inward, at the soldiers who will man the positions, at the generals who will defend them, at the political machinery that has staked its credibility on the claim of impregnability. And here is the first crack, visible from the inside before a single Allied ship has left port. In October 1943, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, Commander-in-Chief West and the senior German officer in France, submits a situation report to the German High Command. Von Rundstedt is 69 years old, patrician, a career soldier who outflanked the Maginot Line in 1940. He is not given to alarm. His report is methodical and precise. He lists the wall's shortcomings. He evaluates the Wehrmacht's options against an enemy with naval and air superiority, and at the end, he writes that no one should be deluded into thinking these obstacles made the Atlantic Wall impregnable. The warning was noted. Little changed. Organization Todt builds the wall with approximately 1.4 million laborers at peak. 600,000 of them French workers drafted under the Vichy compulsory labor system. They are building their own country's cage. They do not work slowly. The concrete structures they pour are, in places, genuinely formidable. Massive casemates housing artillery from 100 to 210 millimeters. Bunkers reinforced with steel bar, some thick enough to absorb a direct naval shell without failing. Observation posts, communication bunkers, troop shelters connected by trench systems. By 1944, there are approximately 700 approved designs, refined over years by engineers who inspected Allied fortifications and systematically improved on what they found. One design choice is worth examining closely. Every bunker on the Normandy coast is built with its embrasures, the apertures through which the guns fire, facing along the beach, not out to sea. The reasoning is deliberate. The seaward face of each bunker is solid concrete, designed to absorb direct hits from naval guns. The embrasure is the bunker's weak point, the gap in the armor. If it faces outward, it can be targeted directly. If it faces along the beach instead, the gun inside sweeps the entire shoreline in enfilading fire, while the embrasure stays hidden from ships offshore. Its consequences will become visible at 6:30 on the morning of June 6th. But for all its local strengths, the wall is not what Hitler's newsreels claim it to be. 2,400 miles of coastline cannot be uniformly fortified. Not with the raw materials available, not with Germany simultaneously fighting on the Eastern Front, in Italy, and absorbing 2 years of Allied strategic bombing. The wall is strong at Pas-de-Calais, where an invasion is most expected. At the port facilities of Cherbourg and Saint-Malo, in certain prepared positions. Everywhere else, it is a sketch. By late 1943, the building programs slow further. Laborers shift to bomb damage repair in the Ruhr. Materials stop arriving. This is the wall as it exists when Field Marshal Erwin Rommel arrives for his first inspection. He walks the positions, reviews the construction reports, examines what has been built, and calculates what has not. He has spent 3 years fighting the British in North Africa. He calls it a farce. The underlying strategic concept, the gap between the propaganda and the reality, he calls it Wolkenkuckucksheim, cloud cuckoo land. Then he gets to work. Rommel writes to his army commanders in February 1944. In the short time left before the great offensive begins, we must succeed in making all the defenses of such quality that they will be able to withstand the strongest attacks. Never before in history have there been such extensive defenses to stop attacks from the sea. The enemy must be destroyed before he penetrates our territory. We must stop him in the water, not only delay him, but destroy all his equipment while it is still afloat. In the first 4 months of 1944, the volume of concrete poured doubles. Over 4,600 hardened fortifications are erected in 5 months. 6 million landmines go into the ground in northern France alone. Steel obstacles are planted in the surf. In low-lying areas behind potential landing zones, Rommel floods river plains to make glider and parachute landings lethal. In the fields beyond the beaches, sharpened stakes go into the earth at angles. Rommel's Pargel, the troops call them. Rommel's asparagus. His mine directive is precise and comprehensive. Anti-personnel mines, anti-tank mines, mines that detonate when a wire is tripped, and mines that explode when it is cut, mines to sink ships, mines to sink landing craft. He achieves in 5 months what 3.5 years of building had not. It matters, though not entirely in the way he intends. Rommel's program of placing obstacles between the high and low tide marks alarms Allied planners enough that they change the timing of the Omaha landing from high tide to low tide. The change makes the obstacles visible and theoretically clearable. It also produces 300 meters of open beach that every man in the first wave must cross on foot, fully exposed, with nothing between the waterline and the bluffs. Rommel's own ingenuity will contribute, in ways he will never learn, to the geometry of the killing ground waiting for his enemy. But Rommel sees a larger problem than obstacles, one that no amount of concrete can solve if the wrong decision is made in the next 60 days. The dispute runs from winter 1943 into the spring of 1944. Its subject is the Panzer divisions, Germany's armored reserve. Rommel's argument is direct, and it is correct. Allied air power will make daylight movement of armored columns across France impossible. He has watched what the RAF and USAAF can do to a tank column on an open road. He has seen it in North Africa. The panzers must be forward near the beaches, close enough to reach the waterline within hours of a landing, not days. One division on the first day, he argues, is worth 3 divisions 3 days later, when the Allies have already consolidated a beachhead. Von Rundstedt disagrees. General Geyer von Schweppenburg, commanding Panzer Group West, disagrees. Their position is orthodox. Hold the armor in central reserve, identify the main landing, then strike with concentrated mass. Hitler's solution is to satisfy no one. He gives Rommel 3 panzer divisions. The remaining armored reserves are placed under his own personal control, deployable only with the Führer's explicit permission, regardless of what is happening on the ground. The divisions are scattered across France. The armor that could be decisive either way ends up positioned to be decisive in neither. While Rommel is fighting these internal arguments, the Allies are dismantling the wall from a direction no one can defend against. Operation Fortitude creates a fictional army in southeast England. Fake radio traffic, dummy equipment, double agents run by British MI5, feeding German intelligence a picture of a massive American force massing in Kent for a crossing to Pas-de-Calais. In nominal command of this phantom army, General George S. Patton, whom the German High Command regards as the most dangerous Allied general in Europe. By late spring 1944, Hitler has 13 divisions waiting in Norway for an invasion that will never come. The 15th Army, 19 divisions, the most formidable German force in northern France, guards Pas-de-Calais, the point the Allies have never intended to hit. It is April 22nd, a deserted French beach. Pre-dawn. Rommel is pacing the waterline with Lang beside him, pointing at the sand with his baton. The war will be won or lost on the beaches. Reserves will never get up to the point of attack, and it's foolish even to consider them. Believe me, Lang, the first 24 hours of the invasion will be decisive. He has been saying this for months. The panzers have not moved. The decisions have not changed. His hands are already tied. He says it anyway, standing on the ground where everything will either be won or lost, because there is nothing left to do but say it. The invasion has been scheduled, postponed, and rescheduled around the limits of men and weather and logistics on a scale history had not previously attempted. By early June, heavy swell, lowering skies, winds gusting above 20 knots. Eisenhower postpones from June 5th to June 6th. His meteorologist gives him one narrow opening, a brief moderation before conditions close again. The Germans see the same weather. Their meteorologists draw the same conclusion. Too rough for an invasion this week. The logic cascades. Rommel drives east to Germany for his wife's birthday. His meteorologists have confirmed the channel is too rough for a landing. Senior commanders disperse. A war game is organized for June 6th in Rennes, pulling commanders from their posts on the precise day they will need to respond in minutes. The officers of the 7th Army, responsible for Normandy's defense, sit down to a formal dinner on the evening of June 5th. At 9:15 p.m. on June 5th, Lieutenant Colonel Meyer of the 15th Army intercepts a BBC broadcast prearranged with the French resistance, a 2-part signal indicating imminent invasion. Meyer recognizes it, reports it. The 15th Army, guarding Pas-de-Calais, goes on full alert. The 7th Army, guarding Normandy, is not alerted. Shortly after midnight, American pathfinders drop into the dark over the Norman Bocage. Horsa gliders carrying men of the 2nd Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire light infantry land within meters of the bridges over the Caen Canal and the Orne. 24,000 Allied airborne troops descend through cloud and flak onto fields and hedgerows and flooded valleys. The fragmentary reports reach German headquarters. Paratroopers here, gliders there, scattered contact, unclear picture. At Hitler's headquarters, aides assess. The question is raised and quickly avoided. Is this the invasion or a feint? They do not wake him. He is known to react violently to bad news, identifying these early reports as a genuine invasion before the scale is confirmed is a politically dangerous position to hold in a headquarters where careers end on a wrong reading. The staff lets him sleep. The window for decisive response begins to close in silence around 3 a.m. while paratroopers are still falling through the Norman dark. At 5:45 a.m., the naval guns open fire. For the next 40 minutes, Allied warships direct shell after shell at the German positions. At Omaha Beach, the bombardment is almost entirely ineffective. The seaward face of each bunker is solid concrete, and that is what the shells are hitting. The high-depth embrasures face along the beach. The guns behind them are untouched. The air bombardment, meant to crater the beach and suppress the defenses, is worse. Disabled by heavy cloud cover, Allied bombers drop their payloads seconds late. 13,000 bombs land not on Omaha, but kilometers inland in empty Norman fields. There are no craters on the beach, no cover. When the German gun crews take their positions, they find the killing ground exactly as they left it. At Utah, simultaneously, the current pushes the landing craft of the 4th Infantry Division more than a mile south of their designated sector. Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt, Jr., 56 years old, severe arthritis, a cane in hand, the oldest man in the first wave, walks the wrong beach and assesses. He consults his maps, studies the terrain, and speaks. "We'll start the war from right here." The accidental sector turns out to be more lightly defended than the intended one. The 4th Division lands 21,000 troops at the cost of 197 casualties. Roosevelt receives the Medal of Honor. He dies of a heart attack on July 12th, 5 weeks after D-Day, without returning home. Now, Omaha. Allied planners believe Omaha is defended by a reinforced battalion of the 716th Infantry Division, 800 to 1,000 men, a static formation estimated at up to 50% non-German troops. Second-rate defenders behind good concrete. The most capable German formation in the area, the 352nd Infantry Division, is assessed as being 30 kilometers inland near St. Lo, a potential counterattack force, not a beach garrison. The men going in are told they face those odds. What is actually waiting for them is 6,800 soldiers of the 352nd Infantry Division. In March 1944, as part of Rommel's program of concentrating strength at the water's edge, the 352nd was moved forward to take direct responsibility for the Omaha sector. It is not a static division of foreign conscripts. It is a veteran German formation with every weapon pre-sighted on every meter of beach below its positions. The gun crews have spent months doing exactly one thing. Allied intelligence confirmed the 352nd's presence at Omaha on June 4, 1944, 2 days before H-hour. The information reached V Corps headquarters and 1st Infantry Division headquarters. No plans were changed. The men in the landing craft were not told. It is 6:30 a.m. The ramps drop. Inside the landing craft of Company A, 1st Battalion, 116th Infantry Regiment, 29th Infantry Division, the men can already hear it. Machine gun rounds striking the raised ramps from outside. Metal on metal. In the landing craft, Private George Roach has already made his calculation. "We figured the chances of our survival," he will say later, "were very slim. The Germans have been holding their fire deliberately, waiting for the last moment to avoid revealing their positions. They open up the instant the ramps go down. In the first 5 minutes of the assault, approximately 90% of Company A's first wave is dead or wounded. The officers are gone. The NCOs are gone. The men still alive organize by instinct. Texans finding Texans. Men from the same towns clustering in the surf, trying to understand what is happening around them. The DD tanks duplex-drive Shermans launched 4,600 meters offshore to support the infantry are already gone. Of 32 launched, 27 have sunk. The rough seas overwhelmed the flotation screens within minutes of launch. The infantry is on the beach with no armor, no suppressive fire, no cover, because the bombs that were supposed to crater the sand landed in empty fields miles behind the German lines. WN-62. Widerstands Nest 62, a strong point on the rise above Dog Green sector, controls the entire beach below it. Its ring of concrete emplacements, minefields, barbed wire, and pre-sighted machine guns commands the waterline with enfilading fire. Its embrasures face along the beach. The naval guns offshore cannot reach inside them. The guns at WN-62 sweep the full length of the killing ground without interruption. By the end of the day at Omaha, approximately 2,400 American soldiers are dead, wounded, or missing. That figure representing the assault waves of the 1st and 29th Divisions alone. Some historians, counting all units across all hours of fighting, estimate the total closer to 5,000. The exact number remains disputed. At Point du Hoc, Rangers of the 2nd Battalion, under Lieutenant Colonel James Rudder, are scaling 30-meter cliffs under fire. Their objective? 6 155mm guns at the summit, assessed by Allied intelligence as capable of breaking both the Utah and Omaha landings. The Rangers gain the top. The guns are not there. They were moved inland days before the invasion. The Rangers eventually find them, camouflaged in the hedgerows, and destroy them. But that is not what they climbed the cliff to do. On Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches to the east, British and Canadian forces land at 7:30 a.m. and are through the coastal defenses before nightfall. Unlike the Americans at Omaha, they brought the specialized armor of the 79th Armored Division. The funnies, flail tanks fitted with rotating chains to detonate mines ahead of them, armored vehicles mounting demolition mortars to destroy fixed fortifications. The Americans at Omaha had considered the innovation unnecessary. The wall does not break in a single moment. It does not break cleanly. It breaks the way men under unbearable pressure break through anything, sideways, around, through gaps nobody is covering, by individuals who cannot think of anything else to do. At 10 a.m., 2 small openings appear on Omaha. Men who have crawled through wire or scaled the bluffs between the defended draws, finding seams in the line that no pre-sighted gun covers. By 11:30, a third breach opens at Saint-Laurent-sur-Mer. At 2 p.m., Army engineers clear a path wide enough for armor. These are not the planned assault corridors. They are improvised wounds in a system that, everywhere it was strongest, held. At 3:30 p.m., WN-62 falls silent. Its defender, after 9 uninterrupted hours of combat, abandons his post. WN-62 is the last strong point on Omaha Beach to be silenced. Meanwhile, the Panzer reserves sit. Hitler wakes to the fragmentary morning reports. He listens. He decides, based on 7 weeks of Fortitude's meticulous fabrication, that Normandy may still be a feint. The armored reserves he controls personally are not released. He waits more than 12 hours before ordering any panzer movement toward the beaches, and even then, the movement happens under Allied air cover that turns every road in daylight Normandy into a gauntlet. Rommel, racing back toward France when the news reaches him, cannot change what is already beyond changing. He said it in April. The first 24 hours, the window is closing before he crosses the German border. By evening, 156,000 Allied troops are ashore across 5 beaches. General Dietrich Kreis, commanding the 352nd Infantry Division, reports to his superiors: total loss of coastal positions, insufficient strength for sustained defense. He requests reserves. He is told there are none available. The 15th Army's 19 divisions remain at Pas-de-Calais, watching a coastline that will never be attacked, waiting for a second invasion that was never planned. Operation Fortitude continues working for 7 weeks after D-Day, possibly longer. The deception that made the invasion possible outlasts the invasion itself, holding the most powerful German force in northern France in place by the sheer weight of a fiction. By late August 1944, the Allies have reached the Seine. Paris is liberated. German forces retreat east across the river on August 30th. The following spring, on May 8, 1945, the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany is formally accepted. Hitler is dead by his own hand, 9 days earlier, in a bunker beneath Berlin. Rommel had not lived to see it, July 17, 1944. Rommel is in a car on a Norman road when Allied aircraft attack. The vehicle is strafed, the driver loses control. Rommel is thrown and suffers serious head injuries. He is removed from command. He will not fight again. In the weeks that follow, a group of officers plant a bomb in a conference room at Rastenburg on July 20th. Hitler survives. The conspirators are identified and executed. Rommel's name appears, ambiguously, at the edge of the investigation. His precise involvement remains historically contested. What is not contested is what happens next. October 14th, 1944. 2 German generals drive to a house in the village of Herrlingen. Rommel is there, recovering, 52 years old, his injuries still not healed. The generals present 2 choices: a public trial before the People's Court for treason, or take the cyanide. The family is protected. The reputation survives. The state funeral is already arranged. Rommel speaks to his 15-year-old son before leaving the house. To die at the hands of one's own people is hard, but the house is surrounded and Hitler is charging me with high treason. He puts on his Afrika Korps jacket. He picks up his field marshal's baton. He gets into the car. The car stops on a country road a few kilometers from the house. He takes a cyanide capsule and dies there, in the back seat, on a quiet road in Germany, in autumn. Germany announced he had died of complications from the wounds he sustained in Normandy. Hitler ordered a state funeral. He was presented to the German people as a fallen hero of the Reich. The wall was called Unbreakable. Rommel was called a fallen hero. Both were lies dressed as monuments, told to the same public by the same government, because the truth, that the wall had lasted 6 hours, and that the man who came closest to understanding why had been killed by the people he served, was not a truth the Reich could survive saying aloud. The concrete is still there. The wider stands Nestor on Omaha Beach, WN62, the last position silenced on June 6th, stands today on the bluff above the beach, within sight of the Normandy American Cemetery. The bomb craters at Pointe du Hoc have not been filled. The bunkers remain, because Organization Todt poured the concrete to last, and it has. 80 years, and it has not moved. For decades after the war, veterans of the Afrika Korps gathered at Rommel's grave in Herrlingen on the anniversary of his death. So did veterans of the British 8th Army, the men who spent years trying to kill him in the Western Desert, who came, in the end, to stand at his graveside. The bunkers on the bluff above Omaha still have their embrasures facing along the beach. They are empty now. They were built to last. They just weren't built to win.